Let's talk about the film Bring Her Back, which is the new film from Danny and Michael Philippou, otherwise known as Raka Raka on YouTube. And this is their second film after Talk to Me, which I found to be one of my favorite movies of the time when it first came out. Like, I am telling you, when I went to watch Talk to Me at Sundance, no clue what was I getting into. I just knew it was Raka Raka, horror movie. Probably gonna be great. Really love the Ronald McDonald stuff. But I will tell you, I came out of that movie saying, anything Michael and Danny Philippou do next, I am watching it day one. And now I'm here to tell you, after watching Bring Her Back, I am still seated day one for anything Michael and Danny Philippou do. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification. Let's get to 50,000 subscribers. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram, wherever you can. And let's talk about Bring Her Back. So Bring Her Back is the new film from Michael and Danny Philippou. And basically you have the siblings who go with a foster mother who is doing some weird shit. And that's all I'll tell you. That's all you got to know going into this. Don't read up or watch anything if you haven't already. This is a film you go in knowing nothing at all, and it's going to be great. It is a horror movie, and when I say it's an intense horror movie, it is intense. If you thought Talk to Me was intense, that is nothing compared to what Bring Her Back does. You have Sally Hawkins here starring as Laura, the foster mother, in a role I just never thought I'd see Sally Hawkins in. This is such an incredible role for her. It is so complex. It is so much range she is showcasing throughout, and through it all, I was just not sure how to feel about her character. There is such a complexity in the way that she's written. You have Bill Hinsman here writing with Danny Philippou, and I think they do an incredible job at making this film very, very gray, because there is not a single time where you're saying like, oh, I know exactly how I feel about that character now. You're constantly changing your mind about how you feel, how you think that they are supposed to have an ending to their story, because there is so much about this film that is tackling grief and how complex that subject is in itself and how people cope with it as well. And I thought it was so interesting because Talk to Me does it as well, but I think that in this movie they're really able to fine tune it in a way that I just found so intriguing from beginning to end. And I will tell you, I really enjoy this movie a lot more than Talk to Me. I did hear some people after the screening say they enjoyed Talk to Me more. I think it goes to preferences. I really love when a horror movie is able to tap into the tragedy, because I think horror at its core works best when a tragedy is really well done and written out, and then Bring Her Back, they do that so well. There are so many eerie and creepy moments as well. Like, yes, there is the tragic sense of it. It is a soul crushing movie. Like, go into this with a good headspace, because I am promising you this movie is going to really destroy you by the end. And not just in the aspect of how it is so tragic and well written, but also just the gore and the effects in this movie are some of the most like insane things I've seen in a horror movie in a bit. I am gonna tell you, there are two scenes here where I was myself like a bit like, oh, and I tell you, I watch a lot of horror movies, so I'm not somebody who's easily like nauseated or feel some type of way about sort of like gore, blood, and things like that. But here they take it to an extreme, and it is crazy to see. A lot of people in my audience were like turning away, wincing. It was one of those moments too where you're just like, is this ever gonna end? Because I don't know how long I can stare at the screen while this is happening. But I really do think that Danny and Michael Philippou are so talented where that doesn't come off as shock for shocking's sake. It is part of the story. It is the visceral, brutal feeling of grief personified, in my opinion, which I want to talk more about that, but I don't want to get into spoilers. We'll do that in a spoiler video in the week the film releases, which is about 2 weeks from now. The young actors here, Billy Barrat, Sora, Wong, and Jonah, Wren, Phillips, are incredible as well. Like child actors that truly take it to that next level. They really do a great job at showcasing these intense emotions that can be so hard even for adult actors to do, and they do it in a way that is so subtle, and it just makes that movie much more engrossing, alongside of course Sally Hawkins. Like I said at the beginning, she is a true star and showcasing so much here. Like honestly, I was in awe by the end of it all. I think that this movie is truly going to be one of those talked about movies. There are going to be scenes here that I think people are going to talk on for years and years, and I think Michael and Danny Philippou, if not already with Talk to Me, but with Bring Her Back, have cemented themselves as the two filmmakers that can definitely tackle on any horror project in the future. And I do hope they get a big horror project in the future, because I think they're able to craft such a great story in such a contained environment that I I'm curious to see what they can do when they're able to really unleash out and give us just a grand vision of whatever they want to bring forth to the table. Not saying Talk to Me and Bring Her Back aren't grand visions, because I think they really are great stories about grief and almost these complicated like feelings one has as a human that they're not able really to express themselves with sometimes. And I do want to talk more about that in a separate video, because I think they do tackle these very like human feelings that are complicated or can be sort of seen as not something you talk about loudly. I think they do a great job at really tackling grief here, as they did with Talk to Me, but this is a much more bleaker, somber film. It is more of a slow burn as well, I will say, where I think Talk to Me has this sort of energy to it, where it is a bit more rambunctious and a little bit more, I don't want to say slapsticky, but more like Evil Dead-esque type feel, if you know what I mean. I think here they pull it all the way back. It is a much more slow burn type of film. There are creepy stuff happening throughout, but it doesn't really slam the gas until that last third act, when you really just full on head on, when you get this very in your face horror that is just grotesque, it is visceral, it is brutal, and it really just slams you down. And that is the difference here, because I think Talk to Me had an energy throughout. Now, the Philippou brothers still have this sort of comedic, I would say, much more darker here for sure, way of putting these scenes together, and it works very well as well. Even though the film is much more somber, like I said, the final frame broke me into a million pieces. I think it is one of the most beautifully told stories of grief I've seen, and I definitely do want to see more of the duos working together with other writers as well, because I think bringing in this writer Bill Hinsman really almost like fine-tuned some of the things that I had a problem with in Talk to Me, and I would love to see more collaborations, because I think this is great. So overall, really recommend this. Can't not tell you enough to go see this if you're a horror fan, if you like Talk to Me, if you like these beautiful stories about grief and just want to see something that feels so fresh, because it continues to feel fresh, fresher than Talk to Me. And very excited for what Raka Raka, Michael and Danny Philippou do next. This one was great. So I'll talk more spoilers about it next week or two when the film comes out, so stay tuned. But cannot recommend this enough. Check it out when you can. But I will tell you, if you're squeamish, if you wince a lot with horror, gore, blood, and things like that, take that into consideration, because this movie, I even thought, got a little bit extreme at some points, to the point where I was like, oh, is that really going to be shown to a lot of other people on a wide release? But those are my thoughts, my opinions. As always, I'll see all of you next time. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell. Let's get to 50,000 subscribers. And as always, stay safe, stay positive.